standing by this morning for President Trump to speak at the White House. He's expected to address crime in the nation's capital once again as he is threatening a federal takeover of the district's local government. Over the weekend, the administration launched, I guess you call it a crackdown in D.C., involving up to 450 federal officers. And now a source is telling CNN that the plans are going even further, and now the plans call for as many as 130 FBI agents to patrol the streets with D.C. police, which, to say the least, would be highly unusual. The president's floated the possibility of deploying the National Guard even there as well. All of this despite that the numbers don't necessarily match the rhetoric, that the stats and the data show that violent crime has dropped in D.C. compared to this time last year. CNN's Elena Train is at the White House. His fixation on this is only getting more fixated, not less, despite what the numbers say. What are you expecting to hear from the president today?
Well, I put it this way, Kate. We've definitely seen, of course, the president repeatedly try to paint himself as a law and order man, a law and order president. We've also seen him repeatedly this term push the boundaries of his executive authority. And we're really going to see both of those things kind of escalate today when he addresses reporters at 10 a.m. in the White House briefing room. Now, I'm expecting to hear a lot of the same things we've seen the president post over the weekend. Just to give you one of them from yesterday, he said, quote, "The homeless have to move out immediately. We will give you places to stay, but far from the Capitol." He went on to say, "The criminals, you don't have to move out. We're going to put you in jail where you belong." Now, I think it's important to note, Kate, as you mentioned, we have seen crime in D.C. actually drop in recent years, not just from this time last year, but also when you look back to 2023 from those numbers as well. And we are seeing the president take things to a level you haven't really seen in this city. So as you mentioned, this event comes after we saw the president launch a surge of these federal law enforcement agencies. We were told by a White House official that 450 officers were expected to participate. And then we also have from a source familiar that we could see as many as 130 FBI agents patrolling the city alongside DC police. And it's, again, notable, it's not typical for FBI agents to be doing this type of work, looking at license plates to see which vehicles may have been stolen, other things like that. Now, all of this, as we've also heard, Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, he's compared this city to a war zone. He said it's, quote, more violent than Baghdad. It's more violent than parts of Ethiopia. And what's been really striking to see over this past several days now, ever since the president 5 days ago had threatened the surge of federal law enforcement, we've notably not heard a lot from local officials. That included the D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. However, we did hear her break her silence yesterday when she went on one of the Sunday shows. Listen to what she said.
Any comparison to a war-torn country is hyperbolic and false. There are very specific things in our law that would allow the president to have more control over our police department. None of those conditions exist in our city right now. As I mentioned, we are not experiencing a spike in crime. In fact, we're watching our crime numbers go down.
So as you heard her say there, we're watching our crime numbers go down. But again, this is the first time we've heard Bowser address this since all of this began. And it's been, again, very notable. We haven't heard from many local law enforcement officials speaking up about this. Something notable as well for me was that Bowser did not direct the president or attack the president directly. All to say, waiting to see what the president will actually say when we see him at 10 a.m. We'll, of course, bring in the news there. Kate.
All right, Elena Train at the White House for us. Thank you so much, Elena.
With us now is Executive Committee Chair for the New York State Democratic Party, Christine Quinn, and Republican strategist Neil Chatterjee. And Christine, I just want to start with you here because the crime stats are what they are. Why is this still potentially a potent political issue for the president?
Well, crime is always top or very high on people's lists of concerns because no one wants their city or town to go back to as dangerous as it might have been in the 80s or 90s. But also, I think President Trump, and you can't really argue this, has had almost a war against urban America or blue urban America, which much of urban America is. And this is another example of the facts be damned. Today, he's talking a lot, or yesterday, about homelessness. Homelessness in D.C., based on the point in time survey, which is federally mandated, is down 9%. This is an issue of him really wanting to stick it to Democratic mayors in urban America when he should be focusing on things like his cuts in the budget could reduce policing in urban America and dramatically cut back homelessness services, which will raise homelessness.
Neil, I haven't heard a single Republican have an issue with this, either locally in D.C. or nationally. The stats are what they are. D.C. is a different thing than any other city because the federal government has more power there. But how comfortable are you with this extension of federal power?
Yeah, look, stats and numbers are one thing. What people actually experience and feel is another. I live here. I used to work next door to the CNN studio in Washington, D.C. at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. I got to tell you, when I would walk to Union Station at night after work, I was very uncomfortable. I walked through a lot of seedy situations. And so you can throw out statistics and surveys all you want. The fact is, people who live here, people who visit here in the nation's capital, they feel uncomfortable. And the president senses that and wants to do something about it. And I applaud him for it.
And Christine, one last question on this. What's the risk for Democrats here? We didn't hear from Washington, D.C.'s mayor until vaguely over the weekend, and only a little bit there. Why are Democrats being so careful about this?
Well, I think overall Democrats are being too careful in general, is my opinion. And I think facts do matter. If you're the leader of the country, if you're the mayor of a city, facts matter. You have to decide how to put your resources out there based on what is real. And you know what? One of the reasons there has been some challenges around prosecutions for crimes in D.C. is that both President Biden and President Trump haven't filled the judges' seats that are necessary to be federally appointed to prosecute crime in D.C. If he wants to help D.C. keep crime down, that's what he should do. And you need to lead based on the facts.
Joining me now to talk about this and more is Congressman Suha Subramaniam of Virginia. He represents the suburbs outside of D.C. Congressman, thanks for being here. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but let's talk about this escalation in language against the district over homelessness problem, over juvenile crime. I think he's mentioned the graffiti. There's going to be a press conference today. What do you see in how he's talking about this? Does it merit federal action?
Yeah, you know, his words just make it clear. He doesn't care about the homeless people. He doesn't care about the city. He just wants the homeless people out of his sight. And he's acting on crime right now because a DOJ employee got attacked. And so, yes, you know, homelessness is a problem in D.C. Crime is a problem in D.C. like it is in many cities. But I think it's special to him because it's him and his inner circle see it, and that's what is affecting them. And so I would say generally, if he wants to address all these issues, how about start by actually funding D.C. and giving it the federal funding that it has been set aside for it over the years. They've been withholding funding for D.C. this session in Congress, and that would be a much better way to tackle homelessness, funding the police here, for instance, to be able to do their jobs rather than this rhetoric. And generally, I see this rhetoric from President Trump and this administration.
But it's not just rhetoric in terms of they've got now some federal agents from various departments that are going to be supporting the district when it comes to crime prevention. Do you see this as a step towards the most extreme would be revoking home rule, saying D.C. can't run itself? But in what ways is he encroaching on how D.C.'s run?
Yeah, it's the law, the home rule. It's the law right now to give D.C. the autonomy to address these issues. If the president and this Congress want to help with crime, they can do that. If they want to help with homelessness, they can do that. What I don't think is very helpful, though, is when they withhold funding like they have in the past, and they just talk about this problem and talking about moving people out of their sight, away from D.C., because I live in Virginia. That's my district and my home. And so is there a plan to move people to Virginia to get rid of the people in D.C. who are struggling? How about helping them directly? How about getting them funding? How about getting them housing here in D.C., their home, right? That would be much more productive than what the president's doing right now.